Yeah, I was like, how did we go through that?
Look at it. Look at it real close, Brock. You can see the copper jacket on it. Those are bullets.
Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farms, and today I'm on Paul Case Farms. I got a big old walnut log here that I skinned up a little bit. I actually barber chaired it and tore it up a little bit. We're gonna see if we can mill it and make some good lumber. I think I hear Paul in there running the Halverson, so let's go take a look. Move up and down, or is that fixed?
No, it's fixed.
Oh, by the way, how you been, Paul?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Well, I'm gonna run a contest on my channel.
Yeah?
See whether they like my video better or yours.
That's a good plan.
Okay.
Get a vote going.
Yeah, let's see how that works.
So if you didn't catch what Paul was saying there, he's made a video about this same project we're working on and published it on his channel. So I'll put a link in the description and the pinned comment. You can go check out Paul's video, tell him his is better than mine. Well, I was going to be here earlier, but my son had a flat tire when I was going through Baxter. I had to turn around and go get him, and nobody had any tires, so I had to order one for tomorrow. So
The way it always goes when you tell somebody you'll do something and then
yeah,
11 things come up. That's the way it works for me.
I'm always bad about running late anyway. I wasn't doing too bad today, and that tire didn't care what my plans were, I guess.
Yeah, I guess running late's not bad as long as you're still running.
Right?
I can tell you've been right in front of my saw.
Yeah.
It has shot black all over you.
Yeah, I was like, that was the wrong place to stand. I just told the viewers here that I tore this log up barber chairing, and I don't know if you saw that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it just skinned off one side. I think it'll still make good lumber.
We can play.
Yep. All right, let's take a look at it and see if we can get it, see if we can make some boards. So I tore it up down here, and that bad spot where it tore kind of twists as it goes down. He was also showing me it's got some irregularities.
Yeah, irregularities, bumps on them. Those make it not good for a peeler. And actually, when you're sawing a log, they'll actually tell you, well, you need a log that has 2 clear sides, and that would be to where you could figure out, you know, is this one straight and this one straight with none of those irregularities on them, and they're worth more money because they'll saw out better lumber.
So I'm going to put a link at the end of this video to the one where I barber chaired this one. A lot of people in that video, did you see the video where I cut this down? And I said that all the problem was that because I left a trigger and a hinge, and the hinge was way too fat. I felt like that was the whole problem. A lot of people were also saying my face cut wasn't deep enough. Got a ton of comments about face cut not being deep enough.
I don't know. Was that the face cut? No, that was the trigger.
Yeah.
Your face cut would have been on the side that's gone, right?
Yeah, I think it was probably... You said that on some trees you only do the width of the bar.
Yeah.
I probably did twice the width of the bar, maybe 15 to 20% of the tree instead of the 30%. I didn't think that really mattered. The only way I could see it matters is if your hinge is out on a piece of wood that's not very strong.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's hard to tell if it's strong or not until you...
I got a lot of comments about that, and I told them, I said, Well, Paul Case said.
Great, great. Let them hate on me. I don't care. I learned because I do the same stupidity thing that you was talking about there. I leave the hinge too wide. And I've had several of them that when they do fall, instead of a barber chair, and they'll pull fibers out of the middle of them, and the sawmills don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll actually call that or knock that log back a grade and not pay as much for it. So I got to learning to whittle out a bunch of the middle, and it's pretty easy to do when you got your notch over here that you've cut out. Then before you ever cut anything else, just stick your saw back in there and cut that back some in the middle, and a lot of people say, oh, well, then it'll break your hinge pieces. Well, not if you've got them in the right place. Not if you're making it fall the way it wants to fall anyway. But anyway.
What do you think of that? You see that hackberry is like 37 inches.
Mm-hmm.
It's reasonably straight. I don't know anything about hackberry. Like, to you, do you see a valuable log there? I mean,
oh, yeah, there's some kind of value there. We saw pallet lumber out of hackberry all the time. Hackberry is really bad to be bendy. And even on the very bottom logs on a tree, especially if they have lean to them.
So Google searches were telling me that it would look straight and then it might try to twist as it dried.
Oh yeah, that stuff don't want to stay flat when it dries.
Billy's got my skid loader.
Oh yeah?
Renting it to this casino he works for, try to get it to pay for itself a little bit. Maybe just keep going. Let her drive.
It'll dump out. It'll let you know when to stop.
I think it'd make a better video if you wrote it down.
Ain't happening.
Get your hat and twirl it around.
Yeah, I could just surf it right on down. I didn't really want to saw your log, but I knew you had compaction off in there. That may have been the most uneventful log unloading I've ever seen.
Mill here? Is this the same model of mill?
It is the same model of mill as the other one, except it's just they have super hydraulic, and that's what the other one is. It has two hydraulic pumps in the box on it. This one has been modified, and it runs off of a hydraulic pump run by a electric motor sitting over there.
This is a LT40?
LT40 hydraulic.
I bet this has got some hours on it.
I would like to know, but the scale or the meter on it still says the same thing it did when I bought it.
So let's imagine for a minute that I didn't know how to cut up a log for lumber. I don't know how good your imagination is, but if
I've had to train some people, so yeah, I can fully understand what you're saying.
So the only thing I feel like I know is the first thing we want to establish two flat sides that are 90 degrees to each other. Is that your first thought? Well, a lot of times they do the bottom, top and bottom, right?
Mm-hmm. And all of that is personal preference generally. Sometimes a log won't land right to where you can push it up against the backstops and be able to adjust it the way you want, and the other side's better, so you might cut two opposing sides, and that way you get to roll it to the side you want to start with. Now this mill only has one toe board, and they're hydraulic, but it's on the front, and so I have to do all my adjusting from the front one of those for this. But the biggest thing that's hard to get your head wrapped around is that you have to start somewhere, and where you start changes the dynamic for all four other sides. And for cut and grade lumber, like if it's got an aught or a defect on it, you want to make it so that defect winds up at the corners, because then you can take the boards that have that defect in them and run them through a machine that would cut the edges off and take that defect off with the edge, and you'll come out with higher grade boards. However, most of our sawing is done for a target size piece, and so everything we do moves toward that target. Like the sawing that you've watched Scott do, he's trying to cut 3.5-inch wide boards. So he'll try to get to where he can get a log that he can cut into 3.5-inch wide pieces and then turn it up and cut boards off from it. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is turn it a quarter turn every time. And then on the third turn, you saw those pieces out into 3.5 inches and then stand them up and cut boards off from them. And speed is a bigger thing on that than it is trying to read a log and get the knots set at the corners or whatever.
Yeah. It all depends on what you're going for.
It depends on what you're needing. I have cut a lot of customers' logs that they would say, well, I need some 2x10s or something like that. And so you have to have a target. You're going to have to, on your first cut, make a 10-inch wide face at least. And then when you turn it, you'll want a nice 10-inch wide face, because that's going to be the bottom board. The bottom of the bottom board. And the third turn, you're going to want to get down to where it's 10 inches thick, the piece you leave.
I
and
guess
that way on the fourth one, you wind up with cutting boards through and through.
So I guess the first thing I need to know is what kind of lumber we want out of this.
That's handy.
Yeah, and I don't even know.
Most crafting lumber is cut 1.25 inches to make what they call 4/4, and you can dry it and then run it through a planer and still come out with a board that's like 7/8 or something like that.
I got a planer now.
Yeah, that's just what you need. You'll be completely and totally set up if you just had a sawmill.
Yeah, I got a stack. I got 2 stacks of lumber that have come from different things over the last year without owning my own mill. I got oak, I've got walnut, and I've got cherry stacked up, and just all different sizes. So yeah, I thought if we could make some 1-bys, that'd be great.
Okay. Do you want some thicker pieces when we get to the middle?
Sure. And I love the smell of walnut. Love the look of it. Wife's been looking at things online that we can make.
The only thing I can smell in here is that pine he's been sawing.
Yeah, I had to lean down to it. So you use water to drip on your blades?
Yeah.
Some guys use diesel or different things, but
yep, different mills are set up different to do that.
You don't need very much, right?
This one here, sometimes you need a lot. It really depends on the species of wood you're cutting up.
I always figured sawdust is natural. It must be good for you to breathe.
It's man glitter. That's what I've heard it called.
Yeah.
That wasn't good.
Is that a belt?
Yep. These belts on these, they put them on there in 2s. They're 2 V-belts made together, but they always wear out in the middle. When they get to where they wear out in the middle, they want to jump like that. This was the big, ugly defect.
Or you said you thought there was a branch previously, or
Something like that. I
something
remember
big?
this one didn't show up like a branch, but I thought there was a bump there too that would have been a branch. Yeah.
And somebody buying this log would discount it for you, but it doesn't necessarily take away from the lumber to me. Just character.
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 I like the way you think.
Yeah, I was worried that was going to throw it off. At this point, some guys on YouTube would be worried about the height of the pith right now and trying to get that the same on both sides so that it ends up on the same board.
Yeah.
Do you really give that much thought?
Not for most of what we cut. And even on things like trailer flooring, it's a species thing too, whether that makes a difference or not. Red oak, if you're making some trailer flooring out of red oak, you're cutting thick pieces, the pieces that have the pith in them, as they dry out, when they bolted them down in a trailer floor, they'll split right down the middle, completely in two. Post oak don't do that. White oak won't do that. But for what you're doing, it's not gonna make a lot of difference.
Depends on what you're doing with the wood, I guess.
If you're making a beam out of it, you want that to be in the middle of it. And we used to make a lot of railroad ties. And on railroad ties, you gotta have a hard end. And they're picky about that. They will hunt you down and rename the next 7 generations of your family if you send them a bunch of ties don't have the heart broken.
But walnut's about as sought after as anything, isn't it?
I have sold some white oak almost as high as I've sold some walnut. They like that white oak for barrel saves, and if you get good ones, you've got good. See if it works. Bring it on. Yes! Mark up one for the good guys.
Said there's a hydraulic tensioner on it, and you got to watch because the water and sawdust can gum up. If you watch for white on the blade, that means you're about to have a problem. This is 5/4, right? Actually, 1 1/4, 4 quarters.
It's cut 1 1/4. If you wanted 5/4, we'd have to cut it on 1 1/2.
So 4/4 is actually an inch.
An 1 1/8.
An 1 1/8.
Yeah.
With the idea of being it'll be an inch when it dries.
Yep. They give you a planar curve and allow for the drying. It could be like out of the woods and put some water on it.
Yeah.
Look how beautiful this is.
Yeah. I found gold in this log. Hey, did you see Out of the Woods do his political talk video?
No.
He said Sawyer goes against the grain. His title was Sawyer Goes Against the Grain and Reveals Political Beliefs. And he built up the whole video to talk about politics. And then he's like, so now I'm going to tell you about politics. And then you hear like this helicopter overhead, and you never hear a word. And he just, he really did a good job with it. So the meter's running while you're fiddling around with this thing.
Man, I'd take a tape measure and see how high that was.
me I need to get better lights in here. I said, no, I need to not ever work after dark. Right? Now's the point where you'd ask me a question like, now what are you going to do with that big messed up log? So, Paul, how are you planning to salvage a lot of lumber out of this messed up log? Watch and look, and learn. Watch and learn. That's my strategy. Yeah. Cut it! That's what we do. Yeah, I can't wait to see what it looks like when it darkens.
So you think you want a couple of them 2.5 inches thick?
Yeah.
Might make some neat tabletops or something, a bar top, we join them together. So there's the bottom 5. We only got 4 more boards to cut till we get to them. Hey, what do you think about that?
I think it had some chunks of metal in it.
Oh, that's lead. Somebody shot into it. We would have known if it was metal.
Yeah, I was like, how did we go through that?
Look at it. Look at it real close, Brock. You can see the copper jacket on it. Those are bullets. That's even better.
Kind of cool. We'll have to leave those in there. Probably from the Civil War.
Well, you could count how close it was to the middle.
Yeah. It's a good sized tree. I bet it wasn't that old, but. So we got 1x15s, about 5 or 6 of them. Then we got 2 of them. They're about 2.5 by 15. Seems like if you wanted to buy that much dimensional walnut, you'd spend quite a bit on it. All at once. All right. Well, I had to get out of the way then. I don't want to be a pancake. Yeah. I was gonna say it looked like you'd done this before. Heck yeah. Here's a look at that lumber after I got it home, cleaned it up, stacked it, and stickered it. Well, I had a really good time tonight. Got some nice lumber out of it. I learned you get a little bit more if you don't tear up the tree. But anyway, I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. Go check out Paul's channel and
At Paul Case Farm.
Paul Case Farms, and we'll see you on the next one.